He's gonna be quirky. I think I'm gonna like him. Today we'll be working on botanical paintings together. We'll be focusing on the fern, which has become my new favorite thing to paint. And I can't wait to introduce you to all the little fern varieties that I have here. I love this project because it breaks it down into 3 really easy steps. So we're gonna start with our stem, we're gonna add our leaves, and a little bit of detail at the end, and that's it. My goal for you is to have a wall full of fern varieties in your house by the time you're done with this season. So let's get started. So one of the things I love about this project is that you can have plants in your house without actually having to keep them alive. These are in good shape right now because I just got them, but give them a couple of weeks and they won't be looking so good. So I love this project because I can make myself a whole interior urban jungle vibe without having to actually maintain it at all. So for this project, you just need a couple of brushes. Kind of a smallish round brush is great, and then a few detail brushes if you have them on hand. I have a couple of different colors of watercolor paint here. If you don't have the tube kind of watercolor paint, you can absolutely use a pan set or just whatever you have on hand is fine. We're just looking to use kind of a warm green and sort of an earthy red for this project. So just see what you can come up with what you already have. Grab a palette and your paper. I have a Boston fern, which is really typical. You see them everywhere. A river fern, these guys like to live outside. And a button fern, which is so adorable, and I'm gonna try to keep him alive. These are just here to help me understand the overall shape of the fern, and that's really all you need to know. We're not trying to paint that specific fern. We're going for a general idea of what he looks like, and that's it. You do not need to have these on hand. You can work from our references. So let's get started. I'm thrilled. I can't wait to do this project with you guys today. So the first thing you want to do is kind of get to know your fern. I have a clipping here and I just want to kind of take a minute and look at the overall structure, get to know how the leaves come off of the stem, if it's like this or if it's like this. So he's long and skinny and he kind of comes in a little bit at the bottom and then he almost kind of disappears at the top, which I love. So I'm noticing that this guy has like asymmetrical leaflets coming out. And once you know the overall shape of him, you can paint him any way you want. We're not going for an exact representation here. We're going for the general look. So I am going to grab my liner brush. These are amazing for painting your stems. You can do it with the tip of your round brush if you like to, but if you have a liner on hand, these are great because they're almost like a straw and they absorb a ton of paint and then they just lay it on down for you. So I'm just gonna mix up a little bit of green paint with water. Just grab a little bit of that watercolor. So when you're painting with watercolor, you're really adjusting the overall dark or lightness of the paint by adding water. So we're just gonna add a pretty good amount of water to this because we don't want it to be so dark from the get-go. But as you work with watercolor, you'll kind of get to know how much water to add to make it really thin and light and like a stain, and how much water you don't want to add when you want to make it really dark and bold and bright. So we're just gonna start with kind of a thin, almost like a tea stain of green. So we'll start off with the stem and we're gonna keep it in the center. And based on how long and large you make the stem, that's basically gonna dictate how big the overall painting is. So I'm gonna keep mine relatively small and you just wanna kind of lay it on down. Don't worry too much about this first thing. You're gonna cover most of the stem in leaves anyway. So once you have your stem painted, you're ready for step 2, which is the leaves. And then I'm going to grab my round brush. And I'm going with kind of a smallish round brush because I want this brush to do exactly what it was designed to do and create that shape of the leaf. So I'm gonna mix up some of that green paint and just get it to be a little thicker. This is gonna be kind of almost like the consistency of heavy cream. And then I want to start adding those side leaves. So I'm just gonna kind of plop the brush down and drag it and then attach it to the main stem. I just want to do that same motion all the way up one side. So he's just going to kind of attach. And you can already see I'm not really too worried about making it exactly like the other fern. I'm kind of letting this painting take form on its own. I like to go up one side and down the other. If you like to go back and forth, that's fine too. But we're just going to kind of lay those little leaves right next to each other. And again, it's not a perfect motion. You can kind of shape your leaves, but we just want to kind of create that look. And I can see I already want to start making this one a little smaller and kind of tapering in. It's not about getting the perfect painting. It's really about just enjoying getting to know these different varieties and just kind of like having some fun with paint. So my favorite part is just painting this little top part. So I like to let these kind of little dots disappear kind of as they get higher up. And that just creates a little bit more drama and length. So as long as you follow the overall shape, you'll definitely get the look of a Boston fern. You're kind of sticking to what you know about the general like size and the way that the leaves come off of the stem. So we're gonna do exactly what we did on the one side, but on the other side, there's a lot of wonderful accidents that happen when you're painting these, and they just create kind of a sense of individuality for each one. Now we're ready to move into step 3, which is so easy. We're just gonna add a few little details. It's gonna happen really fast, so don't blink. So we're just gonna mix up a little bit of a really deep earthy green. I love this part because I love teaching people that if you add red to green, you'll get this beautiful deep green. So once you've got that all mixed up, you just wanna take it, and I like to set my pinky down on the paper just to stabilize it, and you're just gonna drag it right up the center. And this is the fun part. This is when watercolor just surprises you and the colors kind of bleed together. And then while we're at it, I like to add a little bit of a vein to the center, especially in the bottom leaves, just to add a little bit more drama. My paper is still a little bit wet, so it's gonna kind of dissolve and bleed in the way, however way it wants to, which I love. If your paper is dry, that's great too. Sometimes you'll just get a sharper detail that way. So once you've added those little details and touches at the end, you are done. This is a really simple one. Remember, we started with our stem, we added our leaves, and those final little details at the end. So this is a finished painting. You can stop here, or there are a couple of little details that you may want to add just to kind of personalize it and make it feel really special to you. So I like to add my initials in the bottom corner. I like them to be really, really tiny so you can barely see them. So I'm just going to kind of pop those in right here. And then I usually just like to add the kind of generic name right underneath in the center, and then maybe if there's like any additional information, that goes right underneath there. So I'm just going to name him. And then underneath that, I'll write the variety. So he's a Boston fern. So now you have your very first hand-painted fern. And I love the way this one came out. I know that y'all love the ones that you've done at home. So everything that you learned from this one, we're gonna take and use all of those same processes for this next one. So now we're going to be using our button fern as the reference. And again, we're gonna do the same exact thing we did for the Boston fern. So take a moment, get to know your fern, make friends with it. He's a lot like the Boston fern, only he's very thin. He's tall and lean. He's got a few missing leaves, and if you want to paint that, you absolutely can. I'm gonna make mine a little bit more structured. So generally speaking, he's a lot like what we just painted, only much smaller leaves. So that's all I need to know. Make some decisions before you put paint to paper about how big you want it, if you want to add another frond in, which I think I'll do for this one, and just kind of where you want him to land on the paper. And then grabbing that liner brush again, because we'll start with the stem, we're just going to mix up a little bit of that earthy green paint. So I'm just going to lay down one, and I'll let him kind of scoot to the side. And then adding another in, and he'll attach over here. We'll move on to step 2. Then I want to switch to my smaller round brush. So we'll dip this in and just get that kind of milky, kind of heavy cream almost consistency. And then we want to start adding our little leaflets on the side. And I'm going to start at the bottom, work my way up and down for both fronds. So it's going to be pretty simple. So we're going to lay it down. I'm just kind of wiggling the brush around and sort of letting it create that petal shape. So you're basically just plopping the brush down and making a leaf. It's just one plop per leaf. Easy breezy. And you're essentially making this brush do what it already wants to do anyway. So I just want you to relax and have fun with this. So we just kind of want to work our way up, and the buttons get smaller as you go up. And then again at the top, we just want some little disappearing buttons. That's what we'll call them. Some little disappearing guys up top. And I like to sometimes make that even more dramatic. So we got one side done, and then we're just going to do that same repetitive motion all the way up. All right, one down. So for this one, I wanted to add two because it's such a delicate fern. I wanted to make it look like it had a little bit more kind of life to it. So I'm gonna go right on top of the paint that I've already done. I'm not gonna worry about defining shape too much. Just gonna let them kind of overlap. So you're just kind of walking your way up one side. And I'm starting to make those kind of button leaves a little smaller. So we've got the whole thing done. I'm gonna turn my paper again and start building this last side. And then we are done with step 2. So we've got all of our leaves painted. I'm already really happy with how it looks. I'm just gonna add a few little details and it'll be ready to go. I'm just going to mix a little bit of that kind of earthy dark red in with my green and make that nice kind of rich sort of earthy green dark color and drag that right on up. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Drag it on up. And then while that center kind of detail line is wet, we're just going to kind of add those little tiny veins that go up the bottom. And I like to add those for the bottom half just because it's a little bit more dramatic. So here we have all of our details. We painted each of the little button leaves in. We've got those little kind of veins in the center of them. I think we can call this one done. If you want to add a few of those final details, if you want to add the botanical name or your initials or your name or anything like that, absolutely do that. Feel free to do that and have fun with it. I think I'm gonna go ahead and sign this one the same exact way I signed the Boston Fern, just so that everything looks really cohesive, and when I hang them at the end of the day, everything looks like it was made to go together. So for this one, it has those kind of side stems, and then if you look closely, you can see it's almost like a tiny little Boston Fern on each side. And then it wants to disappear toward the top. It has kind of like a wiggly situation at the top, so I want to try to capture that too. I love that. So we're going to move him to the side and do the same exact process we did before. So mixing up some of that warm green paint with the liner brush, just going to get a good amount of it here. And then I'm going to start off with that crazy little wiggle and then just go straight down from there. So we'll have a little confusion here and then down to the bottom. Then we want to go ahead and add the side stems as well. So I'm just going to start lower down. I'm just going to go to either side, and I want them to be about the same width on either side. It doesn't have to be perfect, but in general, if it's going to get wider on one side, you want them to get a little wider on the other. As we get closer to the top, I'm noticing that obviously they get a little smaller, but they also almost sort of like reach for the stars. So I want to make sure to do that too, because I like that. All right, so the structure is done. For each one of these side leaves, we're just gonna create a really tiny Boston Fern. So easy. So mix up some of that green paint, and then I'm just gonna do exactly what I did. I'm gonna go up one side, and I'm gonna come down the other. I'm just gonna lay my brush down and attach it to that main stem. And then the same exact process, I'm just gonna let those tiny little leaflets get smaller as they go to the top and just disappear. So I'm just gonna go up one side and down the other. So we're just gonna head all the way up to the top and then let those kind of disappear. You're basically just painting a whole lot of tiny Boston Ferns coming off of one stem. This is when you just need to put on some music, relax, and just get into the rhythm of it, and before you know it, you'll have a finished painting. So we want to do the same thing all the way up one side and all the way up the other side. when I'm looking at my little reference, it doesn't actually have a darkened stem. So I'm just gonna add that darkened color on the side leaves. And I just wanna kind of add that little dark as it comes out from the sides. And I'm not bringing mine all the way to the ends. I'm just letting it kind of walk its way to the middle. So we are done. All of our little dark kind of center areas have been painted. I'm just gonna sign it and name it, and we're ready to go. All right, so here we have our final river fern, and I just love the way that this one turned out. It's sort of a faith journey because there are so many little dabs that you make, and it's like you start out making these dabs, and then all of a sudden you have this beautiful thing that you made. So we have our Boston fern, we have our button fern, and our river fern, and they all look really beautiful together. They're different, and yet they definitely look like they want to go together. And honestly, each one of them just took 3 steps: your stem, your leaves, and a little bit of detail at the end. I love this project because it takes something old, mixes it with something new, and makes it something that you can do on your own